Steven, talk about money. Yeah, what's this price?
You know how it is.
Right now.
Coming live to you from the Civil War. Get the shots fired on 100 boards. Hit your ex-wifey on another score. They gon' know I did it like I'm Orenthal. Get the bridge shuttered till the car stop while the share rally in the stock chop. Copping draft money with a long shot. Blow speakers quicker like the mic drop. Let's go! Go ahead and get your flick switch. All these rappers thinking that they all fun till they act the chicken when the sauce hit. Turn the desert valley to a mosh pit. Turn a spin-off series to The Office. Make a free agent from a Thompson. Bet against yourself on all the losses and make a profit. Fuck the requirements. Fuck up the bag to an early retirement. Off of the stage like you watching a Snyder gig. Slow motion train wreck. Rebel Schneider pick biases. Who was you flying with? Who was you siding with? Who am I firing? How dare you poorly review new appliances? It doesn't work. You should tell them to buy the shit. Oh, got the irony. If we want to make all the bots stop, we gotta add up a new cost. Donald just shut up and don't talk. Oh, what the fuck did he post on? No calm, more bombs, eat on, war song. Everybody screaming free speech today on the campus about Gaza. Ashanti Nelly, someone tell Ja. Cybertruck is getting recalled. TikTok is getting mothballed and an aid bill getting tacked on. Imagine the depth of rejection like Rob when he visit the Kennedy Center, or Heidi on stage seeing Beavis again. On the Palestine membership for the UN, what the fuck is we doing? Holding our breath, immolators at the front of the steps. Manifest is what you really expect when the grip to scare you just to cash in a check. Maybe the fallout is all we can see. Maybe we tortured in our poetry. Maybe our shadow is Keanu Reeves. I want to smoke like I'm drinking a beef. Live to you from the Civil War. Get the shots fired on 100 boards. Hit your ex-wifey with another score. They gon' know I did it like I'm Orenthal. Get the bridge shuttered till the car stop while the share rally in the stock chop. Cop a draft money with a long shot. Blow speakers quicker than a TikTok. Oh God. Too soon. So I was supposed to get a haircut today, and while driving to the barber, who was like right next to, like very, very close to my house, I took a turn because I was on the phone and I was like, oh, the barber isn't that way. And then I turned around and then I parked, and then I realized I actually can't park here. So then I had to make another U-ey down the street and then turn into the barber shop and get in there. And they were like, hey, we can't cut your hair because you're late for your appointment. Because you're a heathen. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching Freestyle the News. If you like what you heard, please blast that like button like a ghoulish cowboy staving off zombification in a wasteland devoid of clear-cut moral righteousness and savage survivalist choices that force you to reckon with your humanity. Also, there's a dog. And then leave a comment on your favorite bar. We are back after a week off. Thank you guys so much for kind of being patient with me. I went down to visit my family and celebrate Eid there. I made some short rib. I hung out with my brother, and it was a good time, and I got to rest. And then I got started on Evo stuff, which, oh man, what a time. Guys, I have to write like 5 songs this weekend. This is one of the songs that I have to write. I have so much stuff to write. My brain is gonna explode. But I'm really happy for that week off. It gave me time to recuperate, gave me time to play some Helldivers, some other stuff I wanted to get to, so I've kind of rejuvenated. Now I'm excited to, start back up again and get this going. Couple of quick announcements before we get into the episode. Number one, yes, we need to update the Spotify playlist. I have been really, really bad about that. But all of those songs should be up next Friday, including the songs here. And then I have somebody on my team who's now kind of trained to pretty much upload songs to DistroKid as we go along. This show is such a sprint and I have a lot of things going on, so a lot of things fall through the cracks. But thank you guys so much for being patient with me. They'll all be on Spotify for you to enjoy. But all right, that's enough of that. Let's get into the breakdown. I've missed you guys. We got a lot to talk about this week. It was a very busy week. I mean, 2 weeks, honestly. But right at the top, I need to start with the music civil war. What is going on? Everybody is dissing everyone. Everywhere. But let's just start at the top. Okay, a couple of weeks ago, Kendrick Lamar had a feature on the song Like That, which was on Metro Boomin and Future's joint project together. Obviously, Kendrick Lamar, Pulitzer Prize winning rapper, one of the best lyricists in the game, transformative figure in hip hop music. Well, Kendrick had a lot to say in his verse, throwing some pretty striking jabs, dissing both J. Cole and Drake, who are considered like 2 of his contemporaries. At one point, both J. Cole and Drake had referred to themselves as the Big 3 along with Kendrick, and Kendrick was like, no, it's just me. It's big me, not you. Me. I have a full breakdown in a previous episode I'll link to. But listen, that set the internet on fire, promising to be one of the biggest rap beefs period in the industry. Well, a week or two later, J. Cole eventually did respond to Kendrick on his own project, Might Delete Later, with a track called 7 Minute Drill, which was met with kind of different responses. It was more of like kind of a lukewarm check. It wasn't like, oh, I'm fucking coming at you. It was just kind of vibey. It was tepid, a warning shot. But Cole later expressed regret over that track, saying he really didn't want to involve himself in rap beefs. That's just not the way he wanted to move. He felt it had a bad energy about it, and he eventually deleted it later and gave Kendrick praise at the show, which Cole was criticized for, but I feel like I'll get to that in a minute. I don't think it's warranted. Well, over the last week, Drake dropped his response called Push-Ups, and at first people were like, oh, is this AI? And then they were like, no, this is an actual Drake drop. And oh man, Drake put in some work. It was a pretty strong response from Drake, accusing K-Dot of having beef with him before the song, saying that he was the reason that K-Dot even had a #1, like his first #1 in the first place. He told Metro to shut up and go make some drums, which is one of the best bars of the whole song. And the thing about Drake's style is it was direct. He wasn't going around the bend to take shots at Kendrick. It was at Kendrick. He wasn't mincing words, and the track was really strong. And what makes this battle interesting is because of Kendrick's complex kind of style and Drake's very, very matter-of-fact directness. Both are strong. He also mentioned Kendrick's splits with Top Dog Entertainment being around 50%, which is like not great. Like the split deals Kendrick has are bad. Okay, so Drake responded, he leaked the track, but wait a minute, we're not done, because Rick Ross jumped in, dissing Drake and Kendrick, talking about Drake's ghostwriter, talking about how K-Dot really isn't about it, he's just a little guy. Very patented, like mid-2010s Rick Ross flow. And obviously this set everybody on fire. Everybody jumping in and having an opinion. I read one article from The Ringer that said, and crucially, Rick Ross is also the only one of Drake's opponents who has ever won a rap beef as the underdog, no less, against 50 Cent in the 2000s. What? That is the most revisionist history I have ever heard. That's like the, oh, well, the Civil War was about states' rights of rap music. Rick Ross did not win that beef. The reason it is widely known that Rick Ross was a police officer, a corrections officer, is because of 50 Cent. 50 Cent showed up at his baby mama's house and took pictures like with his arm around. 50 Cent was wild, bro. A lot of just insane revisionist history there. And okay, he dropped. It's chaotic. Drake's probably gonna drop again. But wait, there's more. Taylor Swift dropped her album yesterday and dissed Kim Kardashian. What is going on the song Thank You Amy with the letters K-I and M capitalized, where she directly, it's pretty much assumed that this is Kim who she's talking about, with lyrics like, and one day your kid comes home singing a song that only us two is gonna know is about you, which hits hard because there's a fucking TikTok of North singing Shake It Off with Kim in the background, and that song is about Kim. Everybody's dropping heat. No, I'm not done. Drake just dropped another diss track with him rapping using an AI voice plugin for Tupac and Snoop Dogg, dissing Kendrick. What is going on? Guys, are we okay? Do we need a hug? Are we good? Lupe out at Coachella being like, I'll battle everybody. What is going on? There's a lot of opinions swarming around about this. There's a lot of thoughts people have. My personal opinion is, I'll tell you, I think it's important to separate what's a real vendetta from what seems like a competition. I think Drake and Kendrick is more of a competition than it is a vendetta. They're going hard at one another, which that's the kind of stuff I enjoy. It feels like Rick Ross and Drake, they are not friends. Rick Ross is on there calling him white boy. That's a, oof, oh man. That's a bad blood kind of beef. And speaking of bad blood, yeah, I think the Kim and the Taylor thing is a fight for the ages. That's a diss. She dissed you in folk, Kim. She made a folk song about you. Fuck. At this point, do you now understand why Cole didn't get into it? Rap beef takes time. As somebody who has been involved in a fairly known internet beef at one point and won it, it was still exhausting. Everybody just remembers you for that. Like, oh, you remember when you destroyed this person and obliterated them from the earth? And it taints your music a little bit. Sometimes it works out okay, and a tide lifts all ships, and rap beef can be really, really fun. But some people just don't want that energy, and it's too much for them to sustain. So I completely respect that. I don't think you should have dropped the track in the first place and retracted it. That's kind of whatever. You could just squash it. Don't delete the track. It exists. And like personal vendettas and beef can also be fun, but as Biggie and Tupac have taught us, that can be dangerous and kind of fucked up. But I don't know. I think we're not at that point where it's like really like horrific yet. I think it's still competition. I think Rick Ross is just like a giant ball of what the fuck is gonna happen now. And I also think that people shouldn't be asking like, yo, I'll battle any. No, if you want to battle somebody, call somebody out. Joyner Lucas and Tory Lanez did it. That's just my thought on it. Just letting you know, I'm not dropping a diss track on Phil unless he wants it. What you gonna do? But let me know what you guys think in the comments of the 9,000 rap beefs currently going on in the last 2 weeks. And I wanted to add a story to today's show because somebody in the Discord mentioned it. Let's talk about The Watcher. Holy shit, dude. So if you've existed on the internet at all in the last 10 years, I'm sure you've heard of one of BuzzFeed's many different types of shows. Stuff like Worth It or BuzzFeed Unsolved. Both of those shows were incredibly successful. I was a huge fan of Worth It by BuzzFeed. I actually went to a couple of the restaurants they recommended. They were awesome. And BuzzFeed Unsolved had a huge following. And those shows were created by Stephen Lim, Ryan Bergara, and Shane Maddich. Well, in 2020, all three of those guys left BuzzFeed and started The Watcher, a brand new independent YouTube channel where they could create content and different types of shows. They had a replacement for some stuff like Mystery Files instead of BuzzFeed Unsolved, another great true crime show. And listen, the content was great. They were at over 3 million subscribers. They were regularly hitting 1 million views per video. Notice that I said were, because in a video posted on their channel entitled Goodbye YouTube, Watcher announced that they were leaving YouTube and putting their content on their own streaming service called Watcher TV, while telling outlets that they were going to eventually scrub all of the content that they had made on the YouTube channel off of the platform. The service itself would cost $6.99 a month with $60 for the year, and they were going to offer a 30% discount introductory free for people just signing up as they started. Now, I know some of you are thinking, hey, well, that just sounds like a Patreon, right? Here's the thing. They already have a Patreon. This is separate from that. Also, when you have a Patreon, you don't destroy all of the content you've put on your channel and paywall it and then say only future content will be here. I mean, like, I guess that's a strategy, but it feels like a bad one. And the video of their announcement of it is pretty like hokey. I don't want to be an asshole because I am a fan of Stephen Lim. I liked Worth It, but it's so condescending.
As sad as it is to say goodbye to YouTube, it's the right thing to do.
Are mommy and daddy getting a divorce? What the fuck? So yeah, people fucking hate this. The video is currently at 169,000 dislikes versus 34,000 likes. And they've lost like 50,000 subscribers. That's, I would be fucked if I lost that many. Many people were being like, I'm not in this. I'm out, guys. The comments are all going in on them. All super upset at the privilege they're displaying. Also the audacity to delete backlogged content, and that video torpedoed all of the goodwill. And you've seen people like CoffeeZilla and Moist Critical chiming in. Now, since the backlash, there have been a couple of clarifications. So number one, they're not going to delete any of the YouTube content. I would not classify that as a clarification. I think they're doing that because they told Variety something different. I feel like you changed your mind there, but whatever. The YouTube content will exist on the channel still. They also said that the first episodes of the new seasons of shows on WatcherTV.com would be available on the YouTube platform. So every new season, they would post up the first episode on YouTube for everybody. But then if you wanted more, you would have to go to their streaming site. That being said, like, I get their idea, right? Like, I understand the idea because, hey, even my channel has difficulty with ad revenue because if I want to cover specific stories like one we're going to cover on later in the show, I have to be really careful because YouTube will demonetize or limit ads, and being entirely reliant on that makes it difficult to be able to be autonomous with your content. Unless you have a bunch of sponsors waiting in the wings, unless you have people buying your merch, it's tough. But again, you have a Patreon. That's there to mitigate that. CoffeeZilla had the same exact issue and then doubled down on his Patreon. And what is it? In the last year, he had how many investigative scoops on everybody from Sam Bankman-Fried to Logan Paul? Also, that's the model for entertainment. That's been the model since forever. You're something people enjoy watching and you build your audience, and then advertisers fund that. Even services like Netflix are now doing ad tiers because basic subscription revenue isn't enough. And I get it, you're not Netflix, you're smaller than Netflix. But isn't that also kind of the point? Like, you're not even Linus Tech Tips. Linus Tech Tips has like 1 billion shows. And even Floatplane and Nebula have videos from multiple different creation groups. You're one studio. You're not like Netflix. You're kind of trying to be like Disney Plus. I don't want to be a dick, but like, you guys aren't Disney, right? Like, you don't have this ever-reaching Thanos gauntlet of content. And while you may aspire to that, I give you kudos for trying to do that. The people who are in the breach of this are your fans and the people who are supporting you. The way that video comes off is super condescending and turning your back on everybody who has been there. You're pretty much locking off a certain section of your fan base who can't afford another subscription. People are so fucking tired of the amount of subscriptions they have. The reason Patreons and stuff do well is because it's meant for support. So with that being said, it's not a good look, man. Anyway, that's how I feel. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, now let's move on to Jontay Porter and the NBA gambling scandal. This has to be like one of the dumbest things you could do. All right, so if you don't know who Jontay Porter is, he's a forward for the Toronto Raptors, right? He entered the NBA in 2020. And back in March, the NBA launched an investigation into some of his games because sportsbooks noticed a lot of weird bets going on, specifically about the over-under, like how many points he's gonna score and all that in his games. And they found a couple games where Porter bailed like early into the game. Like he left the game early on in. Another game where he left because he was sick, where somebody bet $80,000 on him scoring under a certain number of points and won 1.1 million. And it turns out that Jontay was betting on his own games or tipping off other people to bet on him scoring over or under a certain amount of points on his own games. Bro, and there were a ton of weird bets going on around his point differentials for some time. And so once the NBA confirmed it this week, they issued a lifetime ban on Porter from ever being in the NBA. What the fuck? How do you fuck up your career? Dude, that has to be like the dumbest thing you can possibly do. Bro, you made it to the NBA. Even as a bench warmer, man, you can like buy a house. You can buy a house. You're Gen Z and can buy a house. Some people like Charles Barkley have come out and said like they wish it wouldn't have been a lifetime ban. They think Jontay just made a stupid mistake this one time. But like, I don't know, man. Like that's really stupid. Bro, there's John Morant waving a gun everywhere, and then there's rigging your own games while you gamble on. That's like some 90s Pulp Fiction shit. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. But last but not least, our biggest story today is campus censorship. Because man, there's a lot of shit going on. First off, over the last week, there's just been an increased presence gutting protest rights, almost synchronized with the opposition to Israel's actions in Gaza. And I'm not kidding when I'm saying there's a lot of attacks on protest rights. The SCOTUS recently pretty much gutted all mass protests in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. Another big story this week, a valedictorian at USC had her commencement speech canceled because of her views of being pro-Palestine. It stemmed from an Instagram story post she made advocating for Palestine. And I'll also let you know, despite the propaganda, there was a huge section of her Instagram story post where she separated Jewish people from the political ideology that is governing Israel right now. She was very clear in that, going out of her way to not disparage other people's religious beliefs. But because of the outcry for a couple of student groups on campus, her speech was canceled. They alleged that she was anti-Semitic. Again, that is misinformation. I looked into it. And this whole situation sparked intense backlash online. It was censorship 101. She had earned the valedictorian role at USC. Multiple people calling out USC for kowtowing. Also for allowing people like Milo Yiannopoulos to come to their campus, but not this girl to speak her views, Milo has directly been anti-Semitic and said really fucked up, bigoted things. Well, USC felt that pressure and eventually canceled all of the commencement speakers that they had planned, which I mean, like, is a solution that is hurtful to the students of that graduating class. I mean, that fucking sucks. But it does wonders for my point I'm going to make in a little bit. Also, multiple Jewish people out there on X and other places are voicing their support for this USC valedictorian. But also, in addition to all of this, there's been protests in Colombia over the last 3 days against the occupation in Gaza. Multiple students being arrested. Also, some students at Bernard College were suspended, including Ilhan Omar's daughter. And around all this, the House held even more meetings about anti-Semitism with the heads of multiple colleges, particularly Columbia this week. Now, obviously, the last hearing that made headlines was terrible and resulted in the resignations of many of those heads of Ivy League schools after they completely botched the most easy softball question they could have botched in that hearing. Now, of course, there is some bad faith on that House committee as well. But I'm gonna get to that. Now, this time they were more prepared, with the president of Colombia, Manouche Shafiq, saying that calling for the genocide of Jews is against Colombia policy, which was echoed by the other college representatives there. They also said that they all share the same definition of what anti-Semitism is. And after being grilled by Elise Stefanik, Shafiq also agreed to fire a professor from his position for comments that he made on October 7th about Hamas, saying that the attack was awesome. Now listen, Shafiq's responses seem to have performed well in the whole political theater of it all, but she was also taken to task for kind of bending the knee to all of this performative stuff, with multiple people saying that Shafiq knows that a lot of this is out of context, and with multiple students, over 100, being arrested at Columbia over the last few days for protesting the loss of life in Gaza, there has been outrage. And the fact that people really do feel that any criticism of Israel's actions, like when the majority of the world is seeing a lot of things that cross a line, is tantamount to anti-Semitism, is absurd. Like anything, any small stretch, even Israelis are criticizing their government. You understand that, right? That you're essentially being anti-Israeli by stopping criticism of that government. Israeli citizens are also fucking upset. Hostages are upset. Where the fuck were you last March when Israelis were protesting Netanyahu gutting their rights? How fucking convenient of you. Same people who talk about tyranny are okay if it happens somewhere else. That being said, and this is to my point, I'm not surprised by any of this. Listen, as somebody who really appreciates his college experience and appreciates the freedom I had to kind of explore ideas and speak my mind in college, I'm not ignorant enough to ignore colleges have performative agendas all the time. Even at Berkeley, during when I was there, the conversation about rap and appropriation was like at a fever pitch, talking about Bruno Mars and Macklemore. There was so much about appropriation. And during that year, the singer showcase that year was a celebration of Elvis. Yeah, when the national discourse was about appropriation. Great job. And while all the students involved with that were talented, and a lot of them felt frustrated that this was the way things were going, there are obviously some performative parts of that. Berkeley also did a lot of progressive things that were helpful. But even if I appreciate Berkeley for doing that, there's still performativeness in that. The front office at most colleges, for honestly the last half a century, has always felt, oh, okay, we have to think about the bigger picture. They do care about their students, but it's a bigger, broader strokes kind of thing they're all thinking of. And it's a bunch of different people who have wildly different personal agendas. Trust me, I'm the second rapper in history to get into one of the most prolific music schools of all time. And I know a bunch of people in that office wanted me there, and a few people wanted me to shut the fuck up. And if we're talking about protests, listen, campus protests have fundamentally changed the way the United States operates in general. They've helped bring attention to issues. They've gotten laws passed, but campus protests have a history of students taking unfair losses consistently. Don't believe me? Remember Kent State? The shooting at Kent State? You know they got away with it, right? They got away with shooting students. Yeah, don't believe me? Look it up. It was absolutely fucked up. And yes, protest does raise awareness. I think the protests at Columbia are a good thing. I think also that the president of Colombia was trying to do a chess move, I think her chess move was effective. Because let's be honest, people like Stefanik, who have been okay with white supremacist talking points in the past, don't give a fuck about anti-Semitism. This is just their way to being like, oh, liberal colleges are poisoning your kids' minds. So obviously, yeah, in the court of performative action, you've saved your college from being torpedoed and Stefanik's rampaging campaign from moving forward effectively. But there is an ongoing effort, especially in the last few weeks, to curtail or silence dissenting speech because people want to try to move on or not look at this issue. And that is something we should be afraid of. You can do more to protect your students from bullshit and at the same time play the political game like everybody is. You don't gotta bow down or walk in oblivious like the Harvard lady a few weeks ago. Those aren't your only two options. And I think as this election year goes on and we try to figure out what's the best way for us to advocate for the things that we believe in, understanding that this is a game of chess where people who are really smart and really, really bad faith are making calculated moves, we have to calculate our moves on how to give effective protests that disarm propaganda in a way where things are undeniable. Because we can't have things like Kent State happen again. The fact that it's possible is terrifying. Anyway, that's our show. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to have another episode of the Too Soon podcast coming up at some point. Go watch Zed Talks from this last week. Go watch Let Him Cook. Go get some new merch. And anyway, my name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go!